Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today, we continue reading David's song to God, David's song of praise to God. We're in the second book of Samuel, Shmuel Bet, chapter 22, that's Perek Chaf Bet, and we are about to read verse 17. I chose to stop at 16 because at this point, David, in the first part, was mostly David describing God's intervention. The fact that David was in dire, terrible straits. He was suffering tremendously, and then he had these grand descriptions of God's power and God's awesome might and God's intervention. Now, in verse 17, the focus begins on God's particular attention to David as a person, as a singular person. So it starts to get more personal. And this is the experience, that spiritual experience that one has. One is suffering, one turns to God, one looks to God, God responds, and then the person experiences that personal intervention. Yishlach mi maro mi kacheni. Then God, this is verse 17, He sent down from the heavens and He took me. Yamsheni mimayim rabim. He drew me out of the drowning waters, this tremendous waters. He plucked me out of the sea. The feeling that we all feel when we recognize our own value and our own, how special it is that that I am me. I am me. I am in this situation. I have this opportunity. I am in the place where I am now. When we feel special, that is the feeling of being plucked from this giant sea. Yatzileni me'oivi oz. He saved me from my powerful enemy, misonai, from those who hated me, ki amtsu mimeni, because they were so much stronger than me, they were so much mightier than me, and God saved me. Yikadmuni biyom edi. They trapped me, or they hurt me or attacked me on the day that I was suffering, on the day of the tragedy that happened to me. Vayihi Adonai mish'an li. And God became, again, li, specifically to me. He became someone that I could rely upon. Vayotzei lamerchav oti. And He brought me out to the wide open spaces. So before I was yikadmuni, like that language was used in an earlier verse in this chapter to refer to being surrounded by traps and by snares. Right? And now I'm out in the wide open, safe space, no longer surrounded by enemies. He saved me because He wanted me. This is the personal feeling that we have when we get out of a difficult situation. We say, I have unique strengths and skills. I have things that I can do. God wants me because I can do something. I can accomplish. The incredible spiritual feeling that one feels like I have a mission. I have something to do. Yigmeleni Adonai ketzidkasi. God paid me because of my righteousness. But here, more than righteousness, here tzidkasi really means because it is proper, because I have what to accomplish, I have what to do, I have what to contribute. That's why I'm here in this situation. When we come out of life, of a life difficult situation, and we learn something, we accomplish something, we achieve something, we know we can now give to others. Kivor yodai shivli. God has given back to me because my hands were innocent. This is one of the verses which makes me believe that this particular song was written prior to the sin of Bathsheba, which could also be why in the first verse it mentioned that this was sung specifically when God saved him from Saul, which occurred prior to the sin of Bathsheba. Because it's unlikely that David would have considered himself Bor Yodai, a man of clean hands, after he had committed that sin. Kishomarti darchei Adonai, again, because I have kept the ways of God. Velo rashati me Elohai. I have not been evil or bad in front of my God. Ki chol mishpatav l'nagdi, because all of His laws, all of His rules are in front of me. I watch them, I keep them. V'chukosov lo asur mimena. I have not passed over. I have not went away, turned away from his laws. Veheyeh tamimlo, and I veheyeh mir is here because it has a vav beforehand. Is really not translated in the future. And I have been, although eheyeh on its own would be because I will be tamimlo. But here, because of the way ancient Hebrew and the poetic Hebrew is written with the vav beforehand, it really means, and I have been perfect in front of him, and I have been careful. I've been careful to from allowing myself to sin. Vayoshav Adonai li kitzid kasi, and God has again. This is the parallel verse to several verses ago. God has treated me. He has given me back to me according to my righteousness, according to my skills, what I am, what I have to offer. Kivori l'neged einav, because I was clean of sin in front of his eyes. Im chasid tis chasod, God with those that are a chasid, which means a person. Often the word chasid is someone who is pious. Someone who is pious means someone who is reliable, right? Someone who is reliable with God or loyal to God. Tis chasad, you deal loyally. Im gibor tamim titamam, with one who is a powerful man who is perfect, with him you deal with perfectly. Or im navar titavar, with someone who is sorry, there's various ways to look at this word. I'm going to use the translation of the Mitzudot. Navar, from a language of bar, of pure, just like he had kivor yadai, like he used it earlier in this language. So im navar, in one who is pure, God, you act purely. V'mikesh, but with one who is twisted, who is not pure, one who acts in a twisted, backward, evil way, titapol, you also act with him in a curved, in a twisted way, where the way in other words, like you deal with someone who's dishonest, you also have to recognize that you need to deal with him in the same way that he deals with you. Okay, I think this would be a good stopping point for 22b, because the next verse gets a little bit of a switch into from God's dealings with David as a person and as an individual to widen the scope of the song to God saving the people of Israel. So the next verse in the next podcast, we're going to start focusing a little bit more in the song on how God deals with the people. And this, we hear of David as a king, David as a leader, David as a shepherd of the flock, and the song that he sings to God because God saves the people. So thank you so much for studying 22b. Looking forward to continuing the study of this incredibly powerful and beautiful song of David, and completing this chapter 22, and of course the rest of the book of Samuel together.